In the last 2 weeks' units, we used basic processing syntax to draw pictures with code. We also introduced variables to give graphics motion. Additionally, we learned about the 2 areas of setup and draw in processing. These 2 areas can make programs even more varied. Have you noticed that through coding, we can make very beautiful graphics and very rich colors? In today's class, I will explain processing's libraries. Libraries are supplemental code created by engineers of this open source community all over the world. They're a bit like plugins. By downloading extra libraries, we can make processing's code have even stronger functionalities and effects. In today's unit, I will guide you through downloading and using some interesting libraries. Then we will discuss the creation of audio-visual motion graphics. I will show you how to use beat detection from the Minim library to create a motion graphic with synchronized audio and visuals. This is a technique used by many new media artists. They use code and downloaded libraries to create motion graphics and audio. Although so far we have worked entirely on a computer screen, you can imagine that if you want to use a projector and speakers to output processing works, or if you want to exhibit your work in a unique space, then we can create very unique experiences. Let's give it a try. Libraries are extended applications and syntaxes of processing. Like we just mentioned, they are similar to plugins. Now, I'll give a quick demonstration for some additional libraries that I downloaded from the internet. For example, you can see PZCam on my screen. PZCam is actually a library that is used to make interactive 3D designs. You can see on my screen that there are 2 cubes. Then, through dragging with the mouse, you can turn the cubes. So, you can see that processing can also be used to design 3D content. This is one of the main things that PZCam does. Now, we can select a different item. For example, image processing. We can find it here in Topics. The examples I have opened are all in Examples inside of File. That is, if you download a library, it will come with some examples so that you can first try it out. You can change the way they are coded to create the content you desire. For example, in image processing, blending is at the top here. Let's double-click it to open this example's project. Let's try running it. If you think about it, you will understand that blending is a part of image processing, which is a program that processes images. If you think about it, you will understand that blending actually is an example that takes 2 images and switches between them. You can click with your mouse. When your cursor moves over this sketch, you will notice that the 2 images in this sketch replace each other. It's a little bit like processing 2 images in Photoshop. But in processing, it is interactive. You can switch these 2 images to content that you want and make them interactively switch between each other. You can also left-click to change the method by which they switch. That covers the image processing section. Next, we will discuss Minim, which I will help you practice today. Minim is a library that is related to sound processing. Today, we'll first open, for example, this sound energy beat detection. Find this example, then open it. Let's run it. you will hear drum sounds and see that the circle drawn here dances with the sound of the drums.
这个画出来的这个圆跟着这个鼓声会一起跳动，这样子。
So,
对，这就是
this
一
is
个
content that combines sound and
结
graphics.
合在一起的一个内容。好，
Using the Minim library, we can easily create this kind of effect.
这样一个效果。
I will now guide you through downloading the Minim library and then demonstrate how to create a work where graphics dance along with the audio. Now, I will demonstrate how to download additional libraries. First, click on Sketch in Processing's interface. Import Library is inside of Sketch. This is used to bring in new libraries. On the right, we need to click Add Library. This will create a new library. Then the library page will appear. Please input Minim at the top. It is called Minim. M-I-N-I-M. It is primarily used for sound processing. Down below, you will be able to find the Minim library. Click Install in the lower right corner, and it will download the library. Similarly, it will take a little time. In the right corner, you can see its download time. It will automatically install, so we just have to wait a moment. Now that it has installed, there will be a little check mark next to the Minim library. In the bottom right, 2.2.2 is displayed. This indicates that the version has been installed. Now we can close the library window. I strongly recommend that you restart processing. Open it again. Now we are back in Processing's window. I just mentioned that the libraries you download will come with some examples for your use. Let's go to Examples in File. After you scroll down, you will see Minim. Analysis is an option inside of Minim. Energy beat detection is inside of Analysis. You can double-click to open it. Let's try running it. It is the circle that dances along with the drum sound that we just saw.
声，然后跟着这个圆一起跳动的这个图像。好，
Now let's look at its code.
去看一下这个编码。
Of course, it will take some time for you to become very adept at reading code.
熟悉这个编码的这个阅读。
But because our time is limited, I can take us straight to the end of the code.
到这个编码的底下，
The Draw section. You will notice that there is an ellipse. This is one way of doing things. That is, as we know that when the code is executed, there is a dancing circle. We can just go find the ellipse in the code to understand what the key to the code is. You can see that this draws a circle in the exact center of the window. The size of the circle is E radius. The two E radiuses are the reason that the circle dances. We can do something to test it. For example, we can change E radius to 100. And then run the code again to see what happens. You will see that the circle no longer moves. That is, we changed the variable that made it dance to a fixed value. This is just one way to test it to make sure that the E radius variable is what makes it keep dancing with the music. So, we can make good use of the E radius variable. Let's use Ctrl-Z to undo it to what it just was. Next, we will examine how we can use e-radius. For example, let's first recall the line method of drawing from the first week. A line requires 2 points. So if we draw a line from the upper left to the lower right, then we have 0, 0 in the upper left. Then, if we set the sketch size to 600 by 600, and the line needs to be drawn from the upper left to the bottom right, then we can write line 0, 0, 600, 600. By doing this, you will see that another line appears in our window.
好，就会多出一条线。
You can't see it very clearly now.
把这个线条
Let's change it to white.
白色的。
Now it will be easier to see. Can you see it?
有看到吗？
Now we can see a line going from the upper left to the lower right. Next, I want this line to dance with the music.
一起跳动。好，
Let's bring e-radius into the line syntax.
把它带到这个 line 的这个数字里面。
For example, let's suppose that we want this line in the exact middle. Width divided by 2 and height divided by 2 means the exact center. Then we can use e-radius. For example, if we want to draw outward from the center, where would we want to draw to? Suppose we want to draw to the right. Then we can write width divided by 2 and add e-radius. We don't change this. We are first drawing a parallel horizontal line. I'll explain it again. This line will start from the center, that is, width divided by 2 and height divided by 2, and then it will go from the center to the right by the added e-radius. Let's try running it.
执行看看。
This line is too thin now. We can't really see it. Let's adjust it.
等一下。
Let's multiply e-radius by 2 so that it will be more visible.
让它可以看得更明显一些。
Can you see it?
有没有看到吗？
Now, in addition to the circle, you can now see a line. And this line also dances with the music.
音乐来跳动。
This is one way of using the variables of this library.
library 里面所现有的一个变数的一个方法。
That is, we don't really need to write the part that interacts with music.
音乐这个互动的部分
It's okay to just use this.
就可以了。
Next, we will do some more advanced exercises. Now, in this example, we can see 2 other useful syntaxes. The first one is map. It is located here in this example. What does this line of code do? The author created a variable called a. It can have a decimal point. Map with parentheses is at the end. Inside, e-radius is first, e-radius. E-radius has a number that can go from 20 to 80. Why? You can see at the bottom a line that has beat.isOnset. This means that when it detects the sound of the drum, e-radius is set to 80. Now, in each loop, it multiplies e-radius by 0.95. That is, as the code progresses, e-radius gradually decreases. To what point does it decrease? When e-radius is smaller than 20, it will equal 20. So we know that the range of e-radius is 20 to 80. What does map do? It can slightly change this number's range. This way of writing it makes E radius's 20 to 80 range change to 60 to 255. Why does it do this? Ordinarily, for example, this A would be used for color or other parameters. You can see 255, right? This is the maximum value for color. So now let's try using this A variable in the code for the line that we just wrote. For example, here we have written stroke 255, 255, and then A. Let's try running it with A added. Can you see it?
同学们有看到吗？
Now,
现在
the
这条
color of
线
this
的
line
颜色
changes with the sound of the
随着
drum.
也是一样，随着鼓声来去改变。
So, in addition to changing its shape, we can also change its color. We can also continue to change this code as we wish. For example, I want to make this line thicker now. I'll adjust the stroke weight to 40. And then, I want this line to sort of expand from the middle to either side.
从中间往两边散开这样的一个感觉。所以
So I'll write another line of code for line. And then I'll change the original plus irradius multiplied by 2 to minus irradius multiplied by 2.
所以
So, you can see in the content we are running now that this line keeps expanding outwards.
这个线条会这样子不断的往外的扩张。好，
Look at this line. It is now in an active state.
的一个状态。
This is one use of map. If E radius is less than 20, then E radius is 20, is in the code at the very bottom of the window. It just equals 20. This is the standard way of writing it. This is called a conditional expression. A conditional expression has to go into the if parentheses. Then a bracket goes on the outside. We can use auto format inside of the edit menu. This automatically arranges your code. It edits the format of your code. You will see that you also have to put your desired content inside of these brackets. For example, when E radius is bigger than 60, it is inside the window.
是大于，比如说60的这个时候，我们在画面
Then add a circle on top.
再多加一个
How do we write this? We just add an ellipse here. For example, at 300 and 100 in our window.
然后100这样的一个位置，
Then we can add in E radius. E radius. Let's use a set color for this circle. Like this. Do you see that at the top of the window, a circle is sometimes there and sometimes not? Why is this? Because it detects the size of the parameter E radius.
大小。
A circle only appears when it exceeds 60. When it is lower than 60, it remains black. So, you can see that through this way of writing a conditional expression, you can make graphics sometimes appear and sometimes not. That is, your work can create more variation. Now I will teach you how to pair some music to your work. Of course, you can make this music yourself. That would be best. Now I'll introduce an online platform. There is some free music on it that you can download. This platform is called FreeSound. You can search for it on Google. After you are on the platform, you have to first set up a free account. You can only download free music after you log into a free account. You can see in our current file an example of minim code. Here you can see the string song equals minim.load file. This means that it will look for a file to load. So now we are going to replace the current file. For example, because our code dances with the sound of the drums, I recommend that you use, for example, beat in your search. So I have beat, and then its file format should be MP3, so we can continue using the same format. Let's try searching. You can see that there are many search results. There are more than 3,000 results. You can click them. For example, I'll click the Rock 808 Beat MP3 file now. You can play them. If you like this music, then you can download it. Here, I should remind you that every audio file here can be downloaded, but different creators all have their own Creative Commons rules. So on the right side of the screen, you can click Creative Commons. These are the Creative Commons rules. Go here to see what rules the creator uses. If you see a big 0 here, it is good, because there is no copyright. That is, this creator doesn't hold any intellectual rights. So you can use the drums and music however you want. Click on Download to download it. Then it will appear in your Downloads folder. I suggest that you give a new name to the file you just downloaded. Make it relatively simple. For example, I'll change this into just rock. rock.mp3. By dragging and dropping, we can bring rock.mp3 into our processing window from just a moment ago. I'll demonstrate this. This is our original processing window. On the right is the music file we downloaded. Let's drag it in. It's really easy, right? You can just drag it in, and then when you let go of it, it will combine with this project. How can we tell that our music file has been correctly brought in? You can go to Sketch at the top and select Show Sketch Folder. This lets us look at the projects folder. Let's open it. Here, in addition to its executable file, you can also see there is an additional data folder. Click into this data folder. You will see that there are two files. The first one was the MP3 file it came with, called Marcus. The other one is the file we just downloaded. This method is really simple. We just have to change the file name to rock. Let's try running it. So you can see that you can freely use the non-copyrighted music that we just found on the internet. You can combine it with your code. You might want to adjust another thing here. Currently, song.play is written here. That is, it will only play it once. We can change this to song.loop. Loop means to repeat. Let's play it again. Now, the music should continuously play in a loop until you close the program. So, you can search for music files like this on Freesound and use them. Next, I will show you an example of a work that I made. This is an example I made with Minim and combined with free music that I found. I also adjusted the code at the bottom. This draws
跟着
circular
音乐去
shapes
改变
that
的这
change
个
with
乐
the
器弦的
music.
这个图像，就感觉起来是不是非常的动感跟动态呢？它的这个颜
It
色
has a
还
feeling
有
of
造型都
motion
会
and
跟着
dynamism,
音
right?
乐来变化。
Its shapes and colors change with the music. Now,
那现在呢，
can you
各位
give it a
同学是不是
try?
也试试看？
By
用
doing
这样的
this
方
and
式，
combining it
然后
with
结
the
合
Minim
刚
library,
刚所讲的
create
这
a
个 Minion 的
combination of
library
audio and
画
visuals that
所
belongs
执
to
行的
you.
这个声音跟影像结合的一个作品。
We've explained many ways of using processing. Now, I'll introduce an extended application. There is a projection software, a mapping projection software called Mad Mapper. You can find relevant information on its official website. It is a paid software. It is used to project the content that you create with processing onto unique shapes. You can also project two different processing works overlaid onto the same surface. The software also does that. It can also link together different projectors in a series. It can create some really interesting content. These are works that students created in my class. I'll share them with you. You can see that in this work, different content is projected onto the same styrofoam balls. So, it creates something like a light sculpture. It embodies that kind of concept. There's also this one. It projects its contents onto something like this bottle, or some layered faces that they designed. So your works can have a sort of layered depth when they're projected. That is, the works that you create with processing, in addition to having musical dynamics and changing shapes, can also generate some interesting changes with the space or items in an exhibition. Hello everyone! In the last 3 weeks' units, we have explored ways of using processing's program design to create audio-visual graphics. Now, I want to introduce some additional works, like this work created by combining an LED light board, chip, and power supply. It uses programming, though the programming language is different. This was written by using an Arduino chip. But you can see that with chips, we can control visual content. What's different about this work is that I used colored pixels from the Mona Lisa as its original data. Then, through programming, I changed the way this data is ordered, change its colors, and add some random effects. So through this digital interface, a master's work can exhibit some different changes. You can see that this image has become dynamic, and there is a kind of image that appears randomly. Additionally, we have some 3D printed works. I'll briefly introduce these to you. Through 3D printing, we can create many of these interesting designs. In processing, you can output the items you draw to leave a record. You can record your numerical values. That is, you can design a physical object that corresponds to the code on your screen. This object has a design that slowly changes in an arithmetic fashion. Of course, in the future, we can use processing to create physical manifestations of different content from our program. Lastly, I want to encourage everyone to go in a more cross-disciplinary direction and work with technology in your future art and design majors. In this unit, I have explained some possibilities. I hope that in the future you can continue to try creating through coding. This might generate some new artistic forms and content. These types of creations are also more in line with current human life, because our current lives are combined with technology. Each person has their own unique audio-visual platforms and interfaces. You can also use these interfaces to create. Under the influence of this trend, programming can become a very useful tool for you. In the classes of the past 3 weeks, we used programming to create audio-visual motion graphics. How has your practice been? I encourage you to view more new media art exhibitions in the future. You can also search for works on the internet that were created with programming languages. Most of these works are art integrated with technology. This will be an important creative trend in the future. For example, technological art, internet art, and interdisciplinary art. Lastly, I want to wish you luck. I hope that the content of these 3 weeks will be useful to you and increase the degree that you enjoy art. Good luck!